Hi, this is Shad with LoveToCode.com. Welcome back to another tutorial on Java JDBC. In this video, we will learn how to read and write CLOBs. For this tutorial, we will make use of the employees table. I have a SQL script that creates the table and adds sample data for you. You can download it from the link below. The file is called tablesetup.sql. So what exactly is a CLOB? A CLOB is a collection of character data stored as a single entry in the database. CLOBs are typically used to store large text documents, either plain text or XML data. It's important to note that not all databases support CLOBs. So when you're using MySQL, you can add a column with a long text data type. This data type has support for 4 gigabytes of characters. So you can see in this example, I have my create table statement, and I have an entry here for resume, and I give the data type of long text. That's our CLOB data type. All right, so let's see how we can actually write a CLOB to a database. So in this example, I'm going to add a resume for an employee. So I have a local text file here called sampleresume.txt. I want to read this file from my local file system and update it in the database. So in this little code snippet here, I have a SQL statement for update employees. I'll set resume equals the question mark, where email equals johndoe@foo.com. The question mark is our placeholder for our prepared statement. We can move down on the next line. We can prepare the statement and then move down a couple of more lines. We can set up the file handle, and this will allow me to read the input file, sampleresume.txt. Then, using that prepared statement, I'll say set character stream 1, comma the input. So effectively here, I'm going to load this information from the file into that entry there. And then I actually execute this statement by saying myStatement.executeUpdate, and this will actually update the database with the CLOB data. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over to Eclipse and see this in action. I have a simple Java program called write-CLOB-demo. This example will store the resume for a given employee. The resume is a text file. The app's going to read that local text file and store it in the database. So this is basically the same code we saw in the previous slide, so I won't go through all the gory details, but here's the SQL statement that we had before, update resume for johndoe@foo.com. We read the information. And so then here we say myStatement.setCharacterStream. We give 1, comma the input. And then finally, we perform the execute update. Okay, so I just ran the program. It first starts off by just giving us the name of the input file, just so we know which file it's actually reading. So it's reading sampleresume.txt, says it's storing it in the database, and then shows the SQL that it uses for storing it. So we're updating the resume for johndoe@foo.com and says that it completed successfully. All right, so what I'd like to do now is switch over to the MySQL tool and verify this. I have a query here, select star from employees. I'll run this query, and I'll see the output. And we'll note here that for this person, John Doe, there's an entry for resume. I'll open this up in the editor. And I can see in this case the actual text for it. And this is all of the data. So this is our character large object, and it's successfully stored in the database for the user. Okay, so what we're going to do in this example is we're going to read a CLOB from a database column and write it to a local file. So in the code snippet, we have the SQL select resume from employees where email equals johndoe@foo.com. Then on the next line, we'll actually execute that query. It'll give us back a result set. Then I'll set up a file handle for the output file. So I'll just give it a unique name like resume from db.txt, just so I know it's a different file. Set up the output stream on that one. Then I move down to the section of using a result set. I say result set.next, and then using that result set, I'll say get character stream. This will actually give me the character stream on that resume column for this result set entry. That comes back as input, and then I'll actually just do a while loop, and I just walk through that input stream, read each character, and I write it to the actual output file. Let's switch over to Eclipse and see this in action. I have a simple Java program called read-CLOB-demo. This is based on the code from the previous slide, where we basically read the resume for a given employee, and then we save it as a local text file. All right, so let's walk through the code. The piece here is I have the actual SQL for reading from employees where email equals johndoe@foo.com. We execute that query. Then we set up the file handle for the file resume db.txt. And then we just go through and we grab that character stream. And then using that, we actually store the information in the local file system. All right, so I just ran the application, and I'll just check the output. The program says that it's reading the resume from the database. It tells you the actual query that it's using, johndoe@foo.com. It also tells you where it's actually saving the file, gives you the full path so you can easily find it on your file system, resume from db.txt, and then it completed successfully. All right, so let me verify this. Let me move over to my file system, and here's my directory, JDBC CLOB, and I have a new file that was just entered here, resume from db.txt. I'll open this up, and I can see that this is the actual resume information that was from the actual database column. So we were successful in reading that data from the database and storing it locally on the file system. Okay, so that wraps up our discussion on reading and writing CLOBs.